Hey Velia, how are you today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Angela?
Fantastic.
We were having breakfast earlier this morning. I'm so excited to jump on here because I'm thinking, oh, what are we gonna talk about today? And I had mentioned to her, I think I'm gonna need a little nap. But then as soon as we started chatting, oh no, I'm up again. So I'm excited to be here. Excited about the topic for today. How's the weather where you are?
Oh, it's sunny, at least.
Yay.
All I can ask for these days. Sunshine.
Sounds a good thing.
Yeah. So we
Welcome.
want to talk about exploding your own consciousness today and like in the future. So this was a message that I got this morning when I was floating, and um the natural selection used to be, in our primitive era, physical strength, right? Because literally we had to survive on our physical strength, but natural selection moving into the future, which I don't know why we have to have natural selection, but it came into play, is based on those willing to explode and explore their own consciousness.
I know it sounds so destructive, doesn't it? But doesn't it almost have to be like us destroying a lot of the old ways of being and being okay with welcoming the new? And I love how you do say, like, we literally have to destroy it because no piece of it is going to be carried over when we're trying to create something new. Because I think whatever served us, we've kind of already played out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a whole lot of fun to talk about. So grateful for the messages that you're receiving.
Me too. You
Yay.
know, I want to that I think that it's really good that we are talking about destroying something, like, like the goddesses like Kali and the ancient gods and goddesses, like they knew that they had to destroy something in order to create something new. Because if we look at the timeline of humanity, like what have we created new? We talked about this the last couple of times, right? Like, where is new creation? We pile something on top of something and we call that creation. That's not creation. Creation is literally being able to take apart what doesn't serve any longer, which primarily is our belief systems, the way that we think, the way that we allow our emotions to run our lives. Our actions don't always follow what we desire. And so there's a disconnect and there's internal struggle when we have those kinds of things. And so when we're looking at destroying, like, why don't we destroy those old belief systems that maybe served, 1,000 years ago, but they don't serve who we are as a human race any longer? And so why do we, this is what baffles me about humanity, is why don't we just ditch them and find something better? It's always mystified me, right? Like that's a mystery of the human race to me, is like, why do we fight to the end? And we will die for these kinds of belief systems. Like, why do we fight to the end for something that does not work?
Yeah. And it's not even like to the end. Like I remember us having conversations about how important it is to pretty much destroy your belief systems that don't serve you. Because we had talked about that some people, even after death, they take their belief systems with them. And
Mm-hmm.
even after they die on the physical plane, they literally live out whatever belief systems they died with. And I'm like, holy crap, I need to get rid of them because I don't want to. They're hard enough to deal with here on life on this plane, but I remember you had mentioned somebody that was close to you that had died with these belief systems, and they were literally playing them out when you were visiting them in the afterlife. And I'm like, okay, this is like it really hit home because sometimes we think they're going to just fade away, but we're going to talk about how you intentionally have to destroy them because it's kind of like packing for a trip. Like you pack a bunch of extra clothes just in case, and now you're paying overweight baggage. Now you're dragging it, wishing you would have left what you didn't need. But we're having this whole just in case, and I think that a lot of us carry these belief systems just in case, right? But what I'm noticing now is that just in case take up a whole bunch of room and don't leave room for new things to come in. So we literally have to like defrag, delete all these things to welcome in the new. And then we talk about being responsible with welcoming the new things that are coming in, even if we may not have grand direction on how to do them, but trusting ourselves in such a way where we're going to know what to do with them once we receive. But positioning ourselves is a wonderful topic for us to talk about today, because I think a lot of people are getting ready to start positioning themselves to say, you know what, I think I'm done with this old stuff. So
Well,
yay.
yes, at least that's my hope, right? Is that
Yes.
that as a majority of humanity are like, okay, we're done with this. I think that we're finding a lot of the turmoil in the world right now is this revolution that says, okay, we're done with being oppressed. We're done with, control, domination, manipulation. We're done with those things. Let's start trying to create something that's a bit more unified, which we've talked about, and a, a bit more free. Like why can't we just be free? Why do we have to dominate and control others or ourselves even through our mental process? What's the purpose of that? Well, I think the purpose was to have that kind of an experience, but I think we're finished with that. At least for sure I am, and you are.
And you know what? Enough of us have to be, Angela, for us to be called to do something like this, right? We know it's not going to be everybody. And I think that in the past, maybe there was attachment to like, we all have to go, we all have to be saved,
Yeah.
we all have to whatever. But I think there's enough of us ready to do this. If that, one, we wouldn't be called to do this, and two, it wouldn't be possible if there weren't just enough of us to do what we have to do, you know? So there is an awareness coming in where a lot of us are shifting a whole bunch of things. And I think that there's a reason why there is so much control and manipulation, is that some people think they need that. Like, I know when you try to talk to people about freedom, they can't even fathom what they would do with it, Angela. And that's one of the things that I want us to also touch on, is how it's okay to not be controlled. Because for a lot of people, if you don't know what it feels like to have freedom, you don't know what the heck to do with it.
Yeah.
And now we're literally all flying blind. Like, what do you do with it? Like, we teach, right? A lot of people, we help them restore their mental health and their overthinking and all that craziness. And so we talk about when the chatter stops, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what to do with the clear mind. So I think that's where we come in, as mentors and as guides, to be like, hey, it's okay if it's unknown. It's okay if it's unfamiliar. Just trust yourself so much that you were led on this path because you're supposed to do something with it. And even if we're all finding out at different times and with different intensities, there's timing for everybody, and we just need to be okay with receiving the new and not being manipulated and controlled by our own belief systems. Because aren't we being manipulated by all our old belief systems? Isn't that what it is, Angela? It's control.
Yeah, it's total control, and they're handed down from generation to generation. Not only are they verbal, right, mental and emotional, but they are also imprinted into our cellular nucleus. And so it's like we can run from our family as much as we want, but it's in our DNA. I mean, we can't really get away from it unless we actually lay it down, which we talked about last week as well. And if you want more information about that, you can go to my website. But laying down the DNA so that you can actually create your own, like, that's creation. Like, this is the kind of creation that we're talking about, is not necessarily new iPhones or new phones or new computers, none of that kind of stuff. We're talking about real human creation here, nothing to do with AI. And it has everything to do with our belief systems. So yeah, we have to demystify like these old patterns, right? Like, that's what trauma and abuse are. I was reading something the other day. It was the book club book that said what was it? 1 out of 5 girls are abused by their family. Like, this is sexual abuse. This is not physical or mental or emotional abuse. This is sexual abuse. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is how the patterns and the belief systems and the imprinting in our cells have literally destroyed us, because you can't tell me that these kinds of things are just passed along just for fun of it.
Yeah. No,
Right? Like,
oof.
it's terrible. It's terrible who we've become as a human race. And so exploding our own consciousness is the only way out of those kinds of patterns, those kinds of things that just are atrocities that we have created as a human race. And where you have to be responsible for them. How do we be responsible for them? You have to destroy them.
That's the only way to do it. And, as sensitive as that subject is, and as unfortunately common as that is, because it's scary. 1 out of 5. And I'm like, holy crap. Like it's so true. And here's the kicker, Angela, like we talk about generational stuff. I've actually had experience with people that did not experience it firsthand, but they have it trapped in their carbon, in their body from grandmother and great grandma. And you're like, what the hell? So not only, again, do we have our own crap to blow up, we have crap that has been given to us from generation. And you don't know this stuff. You don't know, like this client had no clue, but it was like grandmas and uncles. And it was just this huge generational line. And it was imprinted in her. It was literally imprinted in her body. Yet she had never been physically touched in that way. And I'm like, huh. So when that stuff started getting revealed to me, I'm like, holy crap, like it goes deeper than we can even fathom. So yeah, by blowing it up, you guys, conscious or not, you blow up those imprints and now you start from scratch. You become the architect of your own design. And that's the beautiful thing about this unification. We're going into this whole new dimension, this beautiful earth we're creating, is that we get to go in there fresh. We get rid of all the crap, like demystifying all the belief systems and mom said and grandma said or whatever. And we say, again, thank you so much for you trying to take care of us. You trying to protect us. Because at the end of the day, when they do give us these weird belief systems, it might be their intention to just protect us, to keep us safe, right? Like we had crazy wives' tales growing up in our culture. It's like, don't go outside with your hair wet because you're going to get a cold. And we believed that shit. We wouldn't. And then I started meeting friends that were out there with hair wet and barefoot without socks, and they weren't getting sick. I'm like, is it only in my culture? Like I started kind of asking those questions and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but it was because of the belief we had around it. So not only was it given to us, we build up a belief system because they know better, right? They know they're older, they're our grandparents, our parents, whatever. And so you start believing, so you literally grab it and stick it into your head. And now you're practicing this belief. And I remember when I started demystifying and like really like, what the heck? That's not true because my friend was barefoot and her hair was wet and she didn't get. And so it starts off with little things like that. And I love that we're going to start bringing that to the awareness. So if you don't know, you're going to start looking around, like you're literally going to become your own private investigator and start asking yourself, what belief systems do I hold? And some we're going to have to know, right? And some they're going to just come. And even if we don't know, they're going to go along with the whole dynamite we're blowing up anyway. So they'll get caught up. Every nook and cranny is going to get blown up.
Exactly. You know, it's funny that you bring up these weird little belief systems, you know, but we do believe them. Like we literally believe them. Like we had a belief that you couldn't swim for at least an hour after you ate. Right? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Nothing. But back in the day, my parents didn't know how to swim, and they were definitely afraid to swim. And they've seen people drowned in the river, and shortly after eating, you know. So of course, it's all because of the food. You know, weighs you down. I don't know what the belief was about that, but literally, it was ingrained in us, and it was. It's the stupidest belief I've ever seen. But you know, it's these kinds of you can start exploding yourself by really looking at these kinds of like humorous, just sort of like nonsense, like they make nonsense out of these belief systems that you can start defragging and saying, okay, well, I don't really believe that because I go swimming like right after I eat, or I swim while I'm eating. I mean, you know,
get the work.
Yeah. You know, so those belief systems, so start there. If you're like really afraid to like explode your own consciousness, start with these nonsensical kinds of belief systems that you pass on. Like you may just do it in humor, but it's not really humor because it comes imprinted into you. And then when you say it like gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. And it's funny because we can joke about it. And I love that we can, because this is kind of where we're going to get comfortable with like sticking our feet in the water of, you know, clearing all things that, you know, we need to blow up literally. Right. But we have to like joke about this stuff because think about it. Like, yes, you grew up with that belief. And then like the ones that we had, we can pick them apart and some were harmless. Okay. It's not going to kill you to wait an hour before you go swimming or to make sure your hair is dry before you leave the house. Okay. That's fine. So we didn't really think about it, but there's other belief systems that have played a bigger role in our life that we've actually literally developed a lifestyle because of it. Right? Like be happy with what you have. Boom. Don't receive any more abundance than you need. Just be happy that you could pay your bills. Just be happy. So we have to start exploring that. There's been some that have been, I want to say, almost detrimental to our life because we've held on to those belief systems, the same when we did about not eating. I mean, not swimming before an hour after you eat. So let's start with the funny stuff, like Angela mentioned. Let's start with the little things that, what did my mom and dad always say? What did my grandma say? What were my cousins and I afraid to do because XYZ could have happened? And I can write you down a list of things that we were told. And it's hilarious now that I think about it, but a lot of them are still stuck in those belief systems, Angela. And it's because they serve them, because of the town they live in. I mean, you name it. It doesn't matter. They didn't go explore. They weren't maybe as nosy as I was. But I go back and I can visit these people now, and they still don't go outside with their hair wet. They're still not barefoot, and it's funny to me now, but I mean, even though I honor people's journey, I always say, I wonder what else is keeping them stuck. Right. And we say, like, everybody's going to do whatever they're supposed to do at their time. But if we can help expedite the learning and bring it to their awareness and say, hey, look, this is keeping you stuck. Here you go. What would you like to do with it? And that's always fun to watch. Now we'll get people that say, not a damn thing. I want to continue to do what I do. And we say, raw for you. But there's people that say, holy shit. Those are the people that we're going to.
Exactly. There's always going to be somebody who's like very comfortable, like Ruben in Peru. He's very comfortable being a human, loves being a human, is like, he just loves humanity, period. And he does whatever he has to do for humanity. He will not evolve because he loves humanity. He loves the third dimension. He loves having stuff. He loves having emotions. I mean, he just loves it, and here I am going, no.
You're like, ew.
Yeah. It's like, don't put your feet on me.
I think it's funny when they talk about grounding. No, I don't want to ground. Like, what do I want to ground to? What's going to happen? But you know what? For a long time, I thought it was weird. I did, Angela. I thought everybody wanted to heal and everybody wanted to grow. And it took a lot of me understanding my belief systems around that, because I now can honor people that don't want to grow and don't feel pulled or pushed to do anything. Yeah, like Ruben, like heck yeah, stay where you're at. Because that stuff fills you. And I think I was almost jealous of people that didn't want to grow and learn because they didn't have that same eagerness that I had, or the what's next, or what am I going to learn now? And at times it was a little nerve-wracking. And I at one point hated it, that I wanted to grow and learn so much. Now I get that I had to kind of go through that whole cycle. So when I look at people and say, hey, there's a offer to do whatever, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. Okay. There's more people out there that we need to get ready for, and this is why I love that we started this podcast, because for those people that do need the additional direction, like I'm feeling the need, I'm feeling the call, like I think I have to blow up my consciousness. What the hell does that even mean? And then we're over here, we're blowing up ours. Come join us. It's a whole lot of fun. We're having blow up parties all the time.
Exactly. I used to be jealous of the people who loved being a human, like Ruben. Like I was kind of like, God, why can't I just be, settled and calm and just be happy with what is? But that's not who I am as a soul being. And I get bored real easy. And it's because I am a creator. I'm like always moving into some sort of blowing up my own consciousness to see what else is out there, to see what else is next, and for me, like, that's where I thrive. Like, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like, this is where we thrive. And for me not to explode my own consciousness or to blow it up is be like, oh gosh, you have just enslaved me and put me in a cage that I will never ever, I will die in here.
Yeah. And it's funny because it does. And I'm glad that we can share that, because I'm sure people listening can be like, oh my gosh, I felt the same way. And I don't know what that was. Right. But there was a jealousy. Like, I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, why don't people just want to grow and learn? But when you learn to embrace, I was even mad that I was who I was until I understood the beliefs I had around that even. Right. Just recently. And this is why we have to be careful who we talk to, who we listen to, and who we allow to start instilling additional. Like, I had seen an astrologer and she was talking about my placement in Aries on my astrology, right? And she's like, oh, you have trouble finishing everything you start. And it was such a downer, Angela, when she said that. She goes, oh, you're really good at starting something, but you're not really good at executing. And I'm like, oh, and I felt like crap. Like, she said those words and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a loser. Like, I don't finish what I start, whatever. And then I want to say, thank God, like a week after that, I was going to another retreat with some astrologers or whatever. And one saw my chart. She goes, oh my gosh, gosh, this is amazing. You are so creative. You can create beautiful things. And then when you're done creative, you just hand them off to somebody else to finish. I mean, that was night and day.
Yeah.
I was like, a jacked up, kicked up little dog abandoned in the corner when she said that. And then when this other person looked at the same thing, Angela, and the way she expressed it, I felt like a peacock, like my feathers were all gorgeous and everything. And I'm thinking, how important is it for us to be in the right group with the right people that are going to build on the strengths, instead of like, oh my gosh, you're jacked up, you never finish anything. But it goes in line with what we're talking about. Like, yes, we're here to create, we're here to do. So our missions are different. We're not okay with just doing a 9 to 5 or whatever type of, and then partying on the weekends and then doing it all over again. It's almost like it pokes at you like, hey, don't sleep. It's time. Like, I'm wanting to knock out. It's like, hey, write this down. You're going to write a book. Hey. And I'm like, freaking kidding me right now. But I wouldn't have it any other way. When you look at it, you and I wouldn't have it any other way, because we like getting picked on to create new things, because that's where they know we thrive. So I am now embracing that, and I get it, and I understand more than why I didn't fit in with other norms that I thought I was supposed to fit in. And I know a lot of you guys struggle with that too. So I'm glad we're sharing this, because it's so important for you.
That astrology, that perception, right, from two different people. Just think about the belief systems that you had about yourself in the one where it said you don't ever finish anything. Like look at those belief systems about who you were versus the one that said, oh my God, you're a creator. You just you hand things off. Freaking fantastic. So I mean, this is what we're talking about. When someone says that detrimental kinds of things to you, just explode your own consciousness. Just say, okay, always look at the opposite. Like, we live in a world of duality where we have polar opposites, right? Third dimension is still polar opposites. And until that changes, we're going to hang out in there for a little bit. But if you look at the opposite of what someone's perception is, you can always identify the belief system that's attached to those.
Yeah.
It's real easy to identify what you believe about who you are when you look at the opposite of what someone else projects to you. So this isn't like hard work here. Sometimes we don't want to see the opposite. I mean, it's like, oh. And we find ourselves in those patterns, the detrimental kind of patterns, or those low vibrational kinds of patterns. And we feel, because we've experienced it, or we just don't have a different perspective about it, we feel like we're stuck in those lower vibrational patterns, that we can't get out of them. But that's a lie that we've been taught. We can always do that, and you can do it by just seeing the opposite. You have to be able to receive the opposites. We talked about that last week, receiving, right? Like, are you open to receive the opposite of what that belief system is that you're holding about yourself? And what will it take to get to the opposite?
Yeah. And I'm even going to encourage people to listen to the emotions they feel when somebody does that. Because when she said that, I hated her. I was like, ew, you don't know me. I'll show you. I'll finish something. And it was triggering. It triggered me, because a part of me was like, shit, is that true? But I went back to myself and said, do you want to hold that to be your truth, Velia? Yeah. So I had been tired of being manipulated for as long as I did. Like, there's so many things growing up that I was just so terrified of, because I believed what people said, because I'm thinking, well, if they told me for a reason, and that was it. That was the gist of it. But when she said that, I allowed her to make me feel like crap. And then I stopped and said, you gave her your power, Velia. That was the only reason why you were allowed to feel the emotions that you felt. And I was like, I'll show you. So I wanted to blow that up, right? So there was already something inside of me that was like, no, that's not my truth. But there was fear around that being my truth. But I think with all of us, as we're trying to figure out what is ours and what is not, you are going to have emotions. So listen to your emotions. Just not the first one that comes in, the second one. That doesn't mean they're right. They're the ones that need to be explored. So sit there and like, I'm mad. Why am I mad? Oh my God, that made me sad. Why did that make you sad? And you'll be surprised, like Angela shares all the time, we'll get our own answers, but you have to ask. You have to be responsible with what comes in. You can't just be like, well, that person said, and that's it. And she's an astrologer. No. Wait a minute. I was doing my investigative work, like, F this crap. Someone's going to tell me this means something different, because there's hope for me, damn it.
There's hope. There's hope.
There's hope for me, damn it. And it's similar, Angela. Like I think a lot of us, like I had shared my story about suffering with depression and anxiety for as long as I did. But I always knew I wasn't supposed to stay like that. I don't know where it came from, where I heard it, but there was just internal, like, no, I crave healing so badly. I can't crave it and not have it be in the plans for me. It's just not possible. So when people are listening and they're like, oh my God, I feel that way, but it's happened who cares if you've tried it 5, 6, 7, 1,000 times? Keep trying. It's obviously inside of you because you're supposed to investigate. You're supposed to blow them up, especially if they're keeping you bound. And for more of us, like Angela said, yeah, if she didn't do what she did, it's like, put me in a cage. Like, what's the point of even existing if I can't do the things that I love to do, right? The creation, like just a couple of days ago, I was going through some treatment and I'm like, oh my gosh. And Angela's like, hey, I created a meditation for you. I'm like, thank you. Send it over, and she sends it over and I'm just like handling business in like a 7-minute meditation. And I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like this aligns, this makes sense. Help me with this. Cause I kind of peak, I see where I need to go. I just don't know the first step. And then we'll just throw you the first step. And then after that, you'll be surprised how they magically just show up. Right. And I'm excited about that because it's happened when I sit here and talk about it. I could think about many times in my life where things just showed up, Angela, just because I was hungry enough and I was looking and I didn't have to worry about where.
Yeah, I think that that's part of manifestation that nobody ever talks about is you have to actually be curious about it and you have to desire something and you have to believe in yourself. The hardest part about shifting our consciousness is trusting yourself. Like it's the hardest. I'm not joking. Like moving into this new, more unified consciousness that we're literally moving into, you have the trust. The self-trust has been the thing that I have found, not that it's hard, but it's like the thing. It's the thing that will move us from point A to point B. And most of us don't trust our own selves. We don't trust our own wisdom. We don't trust our own intuitiveness. We don't trust our own decisions. We're constantly asking someone out there for something, right? And that's the program. That's one of the belief systems that we have that says, oh, you're not right. You have to ask somebody out there. And because they know more than you, because that astrologer knows more than you, when your internal self is saying, no, that's not right. That's not 100% accurate. Yeah, we create stuff and we leave them. Maybe we don't finish them, but I'm not supposed to finish them. Right? Exactly. Like you're not supposed to finish them, Velia. You're supposed to hand them off to a generator, right? In human design, there's a generator out there who's going to put it all together and make it amazing. You're the idea creator. You're the think tank. And so, but trusting that is like, it's some of the hardest work that we can ever do for ourselves is to learn to trust unconditionally. Yeah. Not in the world. Don't follow the masses, for God's sakes. They're always wrong. But trust in yourself because you're the master here. Like we're moving into self-mastery. The age of Aquarian is not the eclectic Aquarian, the one who goes off into the forest and never comes back. That's not what the age of Aquarian is. It's self-mastery. In order to become a self-master, you have to eliminate all the distractions and all the chaos. That's where the Aquarians, see, that's the other side of Aquarius. I'm an Aquarian, you're an Aquarian, we know Aquarians. That's the other side of Aquarians that gets misperceived is because, we're aloof. No, we're not aloof. We're freaking in tune with all of nature, well, the universe actually, and we can see bigger pictures. Does that make us aloof? No, it just makes us want the future more than this present moment.
What people like to refer to as the visionaries. Yeah, like we'll just take that word. We'll just grab that word and go. But
totally.
No, yeah. And people that are listening, they'll be like, okay, but how do I know myself? How do I trust myself? How do I trust my intuition? I want to share something really important. A lot of people are so used to going to somebody else and asking, my psychic said, my tarot reader person said, and not to bring any poo-poo on anybody, right? But I think we're evolving in such a way where all of that is going to be a distraction, if it not already it is, right? And I know from my personal experience, when I have clients and we talk about it, I said, if anybody ever tells you what to think about something, or if they tell you what it means, you're already being led astray. because a good healer, a good practitioner, a good anyone is going to tell you, what does that mean to you? What do you think? And this is why I've stuck around with Angela for so long. And even though I shared a little bit about how much I hated, it would have just given me the freaking answers. I would have a vision or whatever when I was stepping into like my mediumship, right? And I'm like, something's happening, Angela. Like, what she goes, Velia, it's the first thing you hear. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it was so confusing to me that it was so simple. What I do know in the parts of us getting to know ourselves, that is so simple, you guys. It's so simple that we tend to complicate it. We overthink, we overlook, we over practice. It's just over everything. And it's not supposed to be that complicated. Whenever like Angela and I would go on a retreat and something would happen, I would say, Angela, this, she goes, Velia, what do you think? And I told her, you would trigger the shit out of me. I hated when you would make me stop and ask myself what it was. And I'd be like a little kid tantrum. Fine, then I just won't ask what they want and they'll just leave it alone. And then they just keep bugging the crap out of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one, if you find yourself really depending on somebody else and their opinion and you're waiting for your horoscope to come out or your astrology to come out, I'm going to ask you to start putting that stuff aside. If you really truly want to know who you are, what sparks, what your direction is supposed to be, your passion, your purpose, whatever, stop distracting yourself. I know it's easier and you think you're getting closer to you, but I want to say that in all honesty, it feels like you get further away because you start looking for the shiny pennies and the cards and the horoscopes or whatever. And your higher self, your cosmic self, your everything self is like, I'm over here. I'm over here. I'm over here. And I want to share, I don't know if I shared, but I remember I was counseling a couple of clients and I was super jealous that they had me. It's like, how does that make sense? Like I was able to figure out their stuff, right? We talk about this, Angela, like their stuff to us comes like this. And then I had a problem or something I had to work through. And I'm like, I wish I had a Velia. I wish I had it. Like, I was just like having a tantrum, right? And my higher self was like, I'm fucking right here. And I'm all like, oh, like, I wish I had a friend. And she was so loud. She's like, I'm fucking right here. And I'm all like, crap. So she'll get louder and your higher self louder and louder as you turn down the noise of all the distractions. And that's one thing I found. So like in my mediumship, you told me when you're ready, Velia, you're going to step in and it's going to be so easy for you. And of course, I rolled my eyes like, oh, easy for her to say, she's already doing this. And that's exactly what happened. The minute I got rid of I don't know if I can do it, the whys, I should ask, I'm going to call her. I mean, I could be like, I'm going to count it, but she's not going to tell me. So what was it? What good was it for me to call, right? But I just noticed a lot of you are out there chasing, these tarot readers, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, if you're at a point where you have to blow up your old consciousness, right? Your old way of doing things, I'm going to ask you guys to start there because I find that that's what's tripping a lot of people up, Angela. They're so caught up in what everybody says. Oh, they're a healer. They know more, whatever. I don't think anybody knows more. I really think that we all know exactly what we're supposed to, and we're going to come together like puzzle pieces. But you have to be responsible in working your own puzzle piece. So when you meet the group that has the other puzzle pieces, you would know exactly what type of piece you're laying down and the role you play in this grander scheme, this bigger game that we're all playing, or this bigger picture that we're putting together. But turn down the volume on those distractions. And I promise you that your directions are going to be louder and clearer, and you're going to be less and less confused on a daily basis, because it's happening pretty quick, Angela. Like it's happening very, very quick.
Very quick. Like we don't even have a year, like, honestly.
It's really crazy.
The thing about like, it's why I stopped doing readings and doing mediumship stuff is because people became relied on me for their information, and I was like, okay, how about I just teach you how to do this so you can do it for yourself, because that's really what needs to happen here. Is that you need to trust who you are. You need to trust your own information. You need to trust your own decisions. You need to trust, you. And that's when life really took off, was when I switched from, well, it was interesting, right? Like that's how I got people interested, was giving them a reading. But when I started teaching them is when the power came in, like, because self-power came back into all of my clients. And, so that the power, a couple of years ago, it used to be like a trendy word, power, self-power, be powerful, blah, blah, blah. But what really happens is you do become very powerful in yourself, because you start to learn who you are. You start to understand, like, that you're the one, you're the only one. And, you know, when you want to blow up your consciousness, it's super easy. You don't have to be afraid of yourself in order to do that. Just don't ask somebody else if you're doing the right thing, because you're the one that knows.
It's funny because, you know, when you're with clients, you know, we know that we get information for them and they'll ask like, how did you know? I'm like, because your higher self, your guides, everybody snitches on you. That's what I say. And I said, let me tell you something. They're going to tell you way before they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're so hard-headed and we can't hear that they use us as messengers. That's it. But we'll say something you already know. Like something will come in. Oh, I don't talk. Oh, make this decision. Like, hey, you've been sitting on this for, how did you know? And now accountability comes in. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know how I know, because they're snitching on you. And so it makes people more accountable, right? Instead of like, oh, coach, what do you think? Or Angela, what do you think? We start attracting people that are saying, hey, I've been led to this and that, whatever. Would you mind helping me get the snow off of the first, you know, step on down? And I'm like, hey, you know what? Yes, we'll do that for you, because you already showed up. You understand that there's a step under the snow. I didn't tell you. You asked me to take the snow off at the step. And it's kind of like, okay, they've already been led. And yes, we're going to help you get to where you have to get to. But we know that you already have the driving force, that you've already been activated per se. And when Angela says things like blowing up the consciousness, like we can break down, what does that even mean? But for a lot of you guys, this is a message you've been waiting to like have confirmed, because you already heard it. We're not saying anything new. It's nothing you haven't already been shown, but it was a little blurry, right? So it's kind of like having a pair of glasses to help you kind of focus in a little more and say, okay, where am I going? Because there's a whole new thing that's being created, and we are being called to create. And for those of you that are ready to blow up the consciousness, to start unlearning and to start learning what is going to be sustainable from now moving forward. And we say, Angela, thank God for the things that happened yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those things are no good anymore. Like
Right.
they're not going to take you. It's kind of like having, you know, like you're going to go scuba diving or whatever, and it's like old ass gear. Like you can't use it. It's going to sink you rather than help you stay alive and afloat, you know? And that's what I've been getting. Like a lot of the images that I've been getting is old stuff, thrown away, locked away, burned up. Like, hey, there's new stuff here. It's like, well, I don't know how to use that equipment. And, you know, they keep saying, we're going to teach you how, we're going to show you, but you got to like do this first. Like, I can't teach you while you're standing over there. I'm like, well, let me just see if, but you notice the fear is going off. Like a lot of people aren't as fearful as they used to be, is what I'm saying. They're more willing to like have this courage to step into even what's the unknown, right? Like I'm here getting treatments done and I have no idea what they were, how they were, whatever. But the minute Angela started sharing, my whole body started like vibrating and stuff. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but sign me up. And so I trust that those of us that are being prepared, we have this internal awareness. So don't wait for somebody to say, oh, that's that bell going off. If there's something happening inside your body and you're thinking and feeling some stuff, that's your call. Again, you don't have to overthink it, especially don't look it.
Don't overthink it. Like that's the worst thing that we could do to ourselves, is think about something, right? It's like, but now there's a difference between overthinking and actually like learning, right? So overthinking is just you revolving in a pattern where you're stuck and you're just regurgitating the same thing, maybe just in a different viewpoint, but it's the same crap, you know? And when you're learning something, like that's exploration, that's you being an inquisitive mind, that's you tapping into that universal mind that says, hey, there's a door open over here. Do you want to come in and explore what's going on? You know? So, but there's a new language in that door. When you explode your own consciousness, you're literally getting rid of the old vibration, and in that vibration, there's language, there's senses, there's emotions, there's thoughts, there's actions, there's deeds. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to go. And when you do that, you have to open to receive a new language, a new thought, a new emotion, right? I can say, since I've done this activation into this new world idea, I have been the happiest I've ever been in my life. Because I can tell that my emotions are much more unified. Like there's not the extreme dualities that I would experience before with, you know, the extreme highs and lows. I can tell that, and I don't take any medications. And so I could tell that my emotions are a bit way more balanced, way more balanced.
It's a shorter distance is what it feels like, right? Like if you have the emotions, like you mentioned, they're not so spread out where you have to go whatever. It's kind of like you're keeping everything close to it's within reach, let's say, to be like, okay, let me tap that, let me do this, let me do that. And then it kind of just all hones in. And I've seen that in you as well, like how it's just kind of like, I'm here, I'm doing the job, I'm excited about something. And yeah, you're right. You are a lot happier than I've ever seen you anyway.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, something's definitely working.
I know, right? Okay, this human stuff is not so, I guess.
That's not so
As
bad.
long as I
Yeah.
can create, we're good.
Don't take away my creativity. No, it reminds me of the image when we were in Peru and we were going to Machu Picchu, we're in the train and we're waiting for the next step of wherever we have to go. And you were just kind of like, oh, like they should just tell me where to go already, you know? And like, you know, we get antsy when we don't know what to do next. But as soon as you start trusting the process and your next step comes in, it's kind of okay, now I have something to work for. With this, it feels like you always have next steps coming in and you don't have to wait, or there isn't this weird waiting period. It's more like, I guess it's kind of like a womb, right? So instead of like waiting room, we're going to call it a womb, where you're being birthed and you're getting all the nutrients you need and the information you need and the downloads you need, the activations, to make sure that when you are birthing something new, you already took the time to sit and kind of allow yourself to feel everything you're feeling and experience everything you need to. And I think that's super important for the people that you're going to be leading, right? Because you would have been in the state of like, let me wait, let me receive, let me figure out what's going to happen. While people are being lined up to be led, to be guided into whatever this is, right? But the emotions you do feel, and I don't know, I can explain it like you're not anxious about anything. You just know that whatever you're supposed to receive, it's going to come in and you don't worry about it. Literally, you just don't worry.
Yeah, that has changed. The other thing that has changed is the speed of time. Like that, like we're not in, I think we talked about this, we're not in 5G, we're in 12G, right? And so like the speed of which we get information is like unbelievable. Like it's so fast here, and it's complete when it comes in. Like before it would be like straggle here and straggle there, and you'd have to like put the puzzle pieces together. Over here in this different dimension, like the puzzle pieces are already together. You're just seeing the vision, and then you know how to like create it, or how to create from that vision, so it's a way different, it's a different game. It really is.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for the user's manual to be downloaded, because the minute like literally it says, oh, okay, I already know how to use it. It's like she mentions 12G, right? We're like, oh, we're in 5G. It's like, no, 6 and 7G is coming. And the reason why they're activating us to do this 12G thing is because this stuff can't touch us. Like they're going to try to do this, that, whatever. But if we're in 12G, how the heck is 6 and 7G going to affect that? Been there, done that type of deal, right? So there's an expedited, your carbon, everything changes for you to adapt to this. So again, if you're here and you have to build, I don't know, a piece of furniture, you don't need to wait for the owner's manual, because once you receive it, you just know how to put it together already. That's the information that Angela's referring to. Is like, you're going to just know. And oh my God, that alone is just worth it. Like, yeah, sign me up for that. Because if I don't have to figure it out, it's kind of like what she said, if you're overthinking, it's like jumping on Google to find out where your headache is happening, and then you're all of a sudden diagnosing yourself with the freaking tumor and you got 2 weeks left to live, right? And that's how I feel like this whole third dimensional crap is. Like you're constantly dying, waiting and running and rushing and whatever, and it's kind of like, don't do that, just wait, step on over to the other side, and everything kind of gets added unto you. And it's not difficult to explain, but it's one of those things that you have to kind of experience to know what one's referring to. But gosh, I just want everybody to jump over, even though I know they're not going to just kind of get out of your head about the craziness that we just over explain to ourselves and never come up with a solution.
Yeah, and we blame ourselves, and we doubt ourselves, and we, all the things. And it's like, just, over here in this new dimension, like none of that even exists, because of the polarities are not, it's more equatorish, which is where the new timeline is heading. It's more like, it's unified. But we're not talking about unification in the fact that you and I are one. Like that's not what humanity is about. It's you're more unified. Like I'm unified. Like here, my thoughts are a bit more unified. My emotions are definitely more unified. My, like the actions, like the happiness, the like who I want to become is more like, I don't have these weird polarities pulling me and stringing me. It's like the year that we took off and we had to like sort of reevaluate and get back on track. I don't think I would ever make those choices again here.
That makes sense. And I think it's because those doors shut. Like, I think that even if one wants to revisit after you've had like a sweeter taste of something, you can't even open those doors anymore. First, you're not even looking for them. But I'm just saying, some people think they're going to go backwards. You can't go backwards because you've kind of been and done. And it's kind of like a timeline, Angela. Like we could talk about the work you've done from the moment you had your awakening and how things have changed in such a way where you can look at your time. Okay, you used to do this. You used to do like time collapsing. That's a whole other topic, right? But you can go back and see what worked at the time that you were doing. It's okay. Yep, that doesn't. So that's why those of us that get bored easily, right? We could think it was a bad thing, but no, because we were supposed to continue to evolve because new information kept coming in, and we couldn't get attached to old stuff. We had to allow ourselves to be okay with receiving the new, to play with those toys, kind of like at Christmas, right? You play with the toys, oh yay, and then it's like, yeah, I lost interest, I don't want this anymore. So to say that was a bad thing, because I thought it used to be like, wow, why can't I just be happy? And it wasn't that I wasn't happy, I just knew there was something else to explore. So now when you get to this place, like normally we just met with somebody earlier that was going through activations, and normally I'm like, what's next? What do we do? Okay, how do I implement this? Like, how do I integrate it into my life? And it just happens by itself. And I didn't have the antsiness of it all. Like, what's going to happen? What do I do with it? It's kind of like you get there when you get there. The manual is going to be downloaded when you get the freaking thing to put together. And I'm like, oh, and there's this just overwhelming sense of peace. And they're like, yeah, this is the way it's going to be. So when you refer to unification, it's kind of like having, we all know that we should be coming in, right? Like you should be so in tune with yourself. But this feels like the motherboard, God, everything is right here. So the distance between getting what you need or grabbing what you need, it's right here. You don't have to go anywhere. And it immediately gets downloaded. It's super fast. And you're like, holy crap, this is so cool. This is the tool we keep forever. So yeah, fun stuff to explain, fun stuff for sure. Yeah. But it's just, I'm so excited. Like this, I too am super happy. Like I'm excited. I want to be here on the planet. There was times where I was guilty of not wanting to see things through because I really didn't find the reasons why. Like, what are we doing here? The earth does this, the government does that. And like, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's about how I feel about me being here, about me creating, and being so happy that I share this monthly subscription with the galaxies, the universe, and the motherboard, where I'm going to be downloaded the things that I need. So it keeps me excited to continue to create, right? Like this renewed sense of purpose. And it's just an amazing thing.
Yeah. I think that that's part of the point, is we have a new sense of purpose. Like this is a purposeful, like I always knew. Ever since I was young, like 14 years old, I knew I was here for the shift in consciousness. And I knew it would be later on in my life. And it was my whole purpose. I had to keep myself busy between then and now. Literally, that's all I did. We just survived, like literally just survived. And now it's more about like, okay, we're here. We know that we're here. Like there's something internal in us that says, I signed up for this. Here I am. Let's do it. And we do it with a conscious level, but there's a conscious level that is higher than this human one. Well, we all know that there's several conscious levels that are higher than the human one, but we are not playing the role of the human in our quest for more. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's been my experience. Like I just have been keeping myself busy until we got to this point. And now it's like, oh, here, I'm just going to spread all my information out because here we are. Like y'all should be listening, paying attention. Come on, let's go.
No, I love how you said that. You know how I described that? There was times that I've shared with you that I was mad because I had my awakening later on, right? And it was like, oh, you wake up when you're supposed to. Then I stopped and think I would have been pissed off if I would have woken up 10 years ago because shit's just stagnant, right? I'm like, oh my God, everything's just stagnant. And it's funny because people can get this confused with, oh, we're building a new world, like the 5D, whatever. It's nothing like that, you guys.
No.
People get excited about, oh, the government disclosure is really going to happen. Oh, it doesn't happen. So it's not one of those we're waiting for something to happen. It literally already happened. Like a lot of the stuff Angela had shared last week, like it didn't work, right? They already tried it, didn't work. This is different. It works. So it's not, we're not talking about government disclosure. We're not talking about, 5D. No, this is totally and completely different. So everything we've been waiting for and we got tired of waiting for isn't even going to happen. So like, don't be excited about it anymore. This is what's happening. And this is nothing like the things that we've been taught before. So this is all brand new information. We're not piggybacking on anybody who talks about these, oh my God, these flares and all the stuff that's going to happen. This is totally different. So
That's already happened.
yeah,
All of those things have already happened. We're not repeating time here. That's not the shifting consciousness that I came here for. I'm not going to repeat time.
yeah.
No.
I love how you said you had to keep yourself busy because how many of us feel like we're just kind of waiting for, crap to hit the fan. And I think a lot of us got bored of waiting. So don't get confused with any of the things that have been taught out there about, things are happening and oh my gosh, new world. This is totally different. This is a whole new blueprint, literally.
Well, I think that, I used to be a chaser of bright, shiny objects. And all that was to keep me busy and to keep me, like entertained, literally entertained. And now here we are in the period of crisis because we are shifting right now or we're not going to do it. There's a lot of people out there still chasing bright, shiny objects. And we need to stop doing that. And we need to say, okay, it's time for self-mastery here. And we start by exploding our consciousness, like literally getting rid of all those belief systems that held the bright, shiny object. And it's time to revolve here because that's done.
Yeah. And if you do like to chase the bright, shiny objects, guess what? You are the biggest and shiniest object out there. And it's kind of like I get the visual of a dynamite, right? Like what happens? You have to go in there and blow shit up. And then when you find this carbon piece of whatever, you have to like literally work at it to get the shine out. And that's no different than us, you guys. What's happening right now? The blowing up of the consciousness is all the old carbon and all the crap and, all these mines that we're going to have to blow up to get to the diamond. So yeah, it's not okay to continue to chase things if it's not getting you anywhere. Right. But, chase yourself, look for yourself, find out where your shiny is and buff it out, people, because I'm telling you, that's what's going to pay off.
Agree.
Lovely. Another amazing episode.
Yes.
If I feel myself.
Exactly.
As they would say in Spanish, it's kind of like a novela, right? A soap opera. Ooh, what's going to happen in the next episode? We'll see you guys next week to find out.
Well, with that, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.